I'm Ryan, this is my brother Daniel, and this is Rolls in the Family. And we are getting into the holiday season here. What better way to celebrate the holidays by getting rid of board games?
Get rid of more games.
Gotta get rid of games.
Gotta make room.
Room for... Actually,
right.
I wouldn't even say that's the motivation.
Oh, okay.
As far as like making room. But over time, we tend to be pretty... I think we've used the word relentless in our...
Brutal.
Our trimming down of the collection, and not keeping games around without a good reason for keeping them around.
Yeah, it's true.
And sometimes we got a game and it just wasn't what we thought it was. It just didn't land as well as we wanted to. Sometimes it's a game that we've enjoyed for a long time. It's had a great stay in the collection, but for whatever reason, we're just like, I think it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And so twice a year, we like to come talk about it and talk about the ones that left. We actually have a pretty short list this time. Maybe we're not as relentless as we used to be.
No, I don't know, Ryan. There's going to be some tears shed on this list,
I will say we got some heavier hitters than maybe normal.
Some of these hurt.
But yeah, I think we got 6 games between us to talk through. We'll also include our ratings for all of them. I'm kind of counting from the lowest rated up to the highest rated. We'll have links in the description below. Always funny to be, you can check out any of the games that we're saying that didn't work for us, but that doesn't mean they won't work for you.
There's a lot of these that I might check out after the video.
Yeah, Daniel's actually making some huge mistakes looking at his list here.
There's a lot of regret in this video.
You can also feel free to drop in the comments any games you've gotten rid of recently or have decided to trim from the collection. Honestly, it oftentimes is more helpful to people to hear the reasons why a game didn't work for them than reasons why it did in terms of
trimming season.
Trimming season. I just shaved this morning, actually.
Ryan, on theme for the video.
Yeah, I love it. I was like, we got that cold video. Gotta get the shave in.
Love it.
Okay, enough banter. Let's hit it off. Looks like I'm starting off here. If there is something that has been a trend, there's trends in the board game industry. Like if you go back a little over 10 years ago when Dominion came out, it was like, man, deck builders were just like blowing up everywhere. And then it was probably like 5 years ago that everybody and their mother was making a roll and write game or a flip and write game. It just is like, there's like hundreds of them now. And then a game called The Crew came out that kind of put a twist on trick-taking games. And I swear since then, there have been so many trick-taking games and clever twists on it. And they must be selling, or at least everybody's trying to jump on the bandwagon of these trick-taking games.
Right.
And this was one that caught my eye. I enjoy trick-taking games, so a lot of these intrigued me. But there's also like, how many trick-taking games do I need in my collection? This was one that was very intriguing to me. It just had a very clever concept, and I'm really glad that I got to try it. This is Cat in the Box, specifically the deluxe edition. Which I ultimately am giving a 7.5 out of 10.
I know very little about this, Ryan.
Very little, yeah. I was going to say 7.5. That's a pretty good starting point for the lowest of our ratings.
Yeah, that's the lowest?
Here.
Holy cow.
Yeah, we're just actually talking about good games.
These are like some of our favorite games, Ryan.
So Cat in the Box is a fascinating twist on trick-taking because all the cards have numbers, but none of them have suits. So they're all just like, don't have any color or anything. And when you play a card, you get to just decide what suit it is. Like you can just say whatever you want. But if I play the 4 and I say this is the red 4, then I mark the red 4 on the shared board to show that the red 4 has been played. So like now that I've played the red 4, that's truth now in our system. Yeah. And so it's kind of playing on like the Schrodinger's cat thing or whatever of like, is it alive or is it dead in the box? Like it isn't the suit isn't decided until you play the card.
Yeah. And
so there's this element of you're trying to, get rid of your cards. It's kind of normal trick taking where you lead following suit, unless you don't have the suit, which is a very interesting thing because how do you know if you don't have the suit when your cards don't have suits? Well, you can just decide you don't. You can say, I'm playing green because I'm out of reds, but you then on your little board have to mark that you're out of reds. You can never say that you are playing a red because you already said you don't have any reds.
This sounds like a great game, man.
And so it's very fascinating because part of what you're trying to do is avoid a paradox. Because if you ever get to a point where, because the longer the round goes out, all the spots on that main board are being taken up so that it limits what cards could be declared. Like there's only these cards left in the deck. And if you ever get to a point where, I only have a 4 and a 6, and the only 4 and a 6 is like in a suit that I've said I don't have any more of, I have a paradox. I can't legally play. And anytime someone does a paradox, it completely ends the round and like you score negative. And it actually can be very interesting because it's one of these games where at the beginning you're betting how many tricks you're going to take and trying to take that amount. So when someone has a paradox and it prematurely ends the round, that can really affect people that were like maybe counting on additional tricks. So all very clever. And then it has this added piece of on that main board where it's a grid of all the numbers from like, I forget if it's 2 to 10 or something, across the rows or the 4 different suits. You put your little tokens out whenever you declare a card that you're playing. And then at the end, you want to have tokens connected, almost like a little area control thing. Because I think it's if you meet it's been a little while since I played it, but if you meet your bid, I think you get bonus points based on like the size of your largest connect. So there's this extra weird thing of like, I want to also like declare cards that, are going to put them next to each other on the board.
Yeah.
So it all comes together really well. And I had a lot of fun playing with it. Really the killer for me was I just don't think it was a game that was going to be an evergreen for me, that I was going to want. It's one of those like, kind of fun little experiment games that's like kind of fun. And then it was like, okay, I could keep it around as that in my collection of like, this is just a fun little experiment game to bring out with people that like trick-taking games to be a nice twist. But I found like when you get your hand of cards in Cat in the Box, because the cards don't have suits, your hands feel really similar every time. You're going to get some distribution of the cards. And yes, you might have higher cards and might have lower cards, but the breadth of like variance in your hand is so much lower.
I feel like it'd be really hard to like even analyze your hand to know like, is this good? I don't know.
It basically boils down to like, do I have high cards? Because that's the only thing you really have to go off of. And so I found like one of my favorite things in these types of games, whether it be Tichu or the Crew or these different things, is how you get that hand and it's like, okay, how am I going to work with this? Like there's a lot that the hand informs me. And I felt like Cat in the Box was missing that a little bit. It was more like, oh, it's interesting as the round goes on to see how it plays out. But like, it made me feel like it maybe wasn't one I was going to want to come back to again and again and again. But like I said earlier, I'm really glad I got to try it. And part of that's from like the game designer side of my brain.
It's
I just
fascinating
design.
I
appreciate this design. It's very clever. It was some very just fun situations with a group that like knows trick-taking games. And I think it could work really well for a lot of people that enjoy trick-taking games. I just so often am looking through the lens of, is this a game I'm going to want to play 50 times? Where something like The Crew, something like Tichu, I mean, I've played Tichu over 100 times. I do feel that way about those games.
Right.
And being in the same category means it's competing for table time with some of those games I really love. So ultimately, Cat in the Box didn't stick around. They apparently kickstarted some like giant edition of this game that like, which made like very little sense to me. I was like, I don't know, of games to decide to make a giant. The board
you
was
can
like
kickstart a giant edition of anything.
Of anything. Giant twister where you can't even like get off of a single red circle.
Yeah.
And you play in you have a team and your team is one unit.
Yep. It's a legacy game too.
This is actually not a bad idea. You all have to hold on to each other and you make one larger organism on a giant twister board.
Ryan.
Don't steal this idea.
If any of you steal this,
I'm putting that away in my
so healthy
my board game design.
There you go. I'll help you play test
idea.
that.
Got to get a few more people. That's more of a game for 100 people. Okay, let's get back on the rails here. It looks like it's me again, Daniel. I've got some of the lower ones on this list because Daniel, like we said, is getting rid of good games like that.
That's how it feels.
Big mistakes, honestly. So, my second entry here is one that I had it looked like a game that looked good, but it falls in a very competitive category of kind of like medium to heavy strategy Euro type games. So it never was one I really thought I was going to get. until an irresistible local deal came up on the old Facebook Marketplace, where I was able to get this game and another game for like, I mean, probably 20% of what they would be new.
Yeah.
This is Endless Winter. And so I believe I got Endless Winter, which is a big, like, very premium. It was a Kickstarter game. Like it's very good components and stuff. And then I got Inish. And I think the two of them together, it was like $30, which like both of those are like, $50, $60 games.
At some point, any price you'll...
so ultimately, now that I sold Endless Winter, I sold it, I think, for as much as I bought both for. So I basically got Inish for free, which, it's a good deal. That's a good way to come out. But Endless Winter is very much it feels kind of like a kitchen sink Euro design. It's like, let's throw in deck building and let's throw in some area control and let's throw in this little like mini game over here where we're making this like monolith thing. And so there's a lot going on. I did like how it was powered by this very kind of simplified worker placement thing where you're sending your workers to one of 4 spots. And then there's like an action you can do there any number of times. There's an action you can do there once. And then there's like a bonus if you're the first one to have gone to that. Mm-hmm. And so one of the actions is all about like hunting, and you can like hunt animals, which is good to get because you can turn them into food, or you could, they have like scoring at the end of the game if you hold on to them. There's another one that lets you do like build your little tents and explore on the map, which is like this, it's almost kind of like Twilight Imperium, like a bunch of hexes together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I hesitated to say that because that's the only way it's similar. But as far as the shape and the shape and the individual shapes of hexagons, and you're wanting to expand on that map, and ultimately if you get like 3 tents together, you can put out a hut at like the intersection, and there's like bonuses that you get from certain things that are out there. And then there's ways to get more cards into your deck because you're recruiting these cards, because it has this whole system that you're drawing cards, and the cards both have like a labor value that like you can apply, like when you're doing some of those actions you can do any number of times. It's like you can spend a certain amount of labor. So it's got kind of a multi-use card things of, do I use these for labor? So a lot going on. And honestly, really, really sharp design. Like it works really well.
Sharp.
For me, and I played it one time, and I just came away.
Once. Okay.
Yeah, these days it's hard to when you already feel like this probably isn't sticking around. It just isn't like the old days where it's like, well, we can play this 10 times in the next 3 days, and then we can decide. Like, it's taken away table time from other games I love.
Yeah.
So the more I thought about it, the more I felt pretty confident. It definitely is like, for the amount of complexity, I didn't feel like the payoff was quite where I wanted it to be. Like, it's not an easy teach because, like, it's just a lot of different things going on that you need everybody to kind of understand.
Yeah.
And none of it, there weren't like a lot of wow moments for me in the game, or like the types of kind of big, exciting moments that I was looking for. It was just like everything was solid and everything worked good and was solid. The thing that probably was my biggest downer on the game was the last like 20 minutes of the game, because it's one of these games where everybody's trying to squeeze out points, right? It's like, okay, in this last turn, what gives me the most points? And because it's so sprawling, there's a lot of different things you could do. So to go through the checklist of like all the different ways I could maybe get some points kind of takes a while. And so like, it kind of bogs down as you try to figure out all the different trade-offs of what you could get for points. But what I found is at the end of the game, a lot of those paths like came out to like the exact same point value. So I there were a couple of times I sat there and I like took like 5 minutes to like run through all these different things. And it basically came to this conclusion of like, I can get like 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, 4 points, 4 points. Those are like the different options. Yeah. And it's like, well, that almost feels like it wasn't worth the effort of me like figuring all that out. There wasn't like one that was like, oh my gosh, if I combo this, I can really do something that's so much more. Now, maybe I just wasn't good at the game, but
that is a possibility, Ryan.
Yeah, it felt almost like the game is was so kind of like balanced across all those things that it was almost whichever route I decided to go effectively into, I was almost coming out with the same points as if I did somewhere else.
That's interesting.
Which, it just made the like evaluation less satisfying and less like feeling like it was worth it.
Yeah. Because I think something we love in games is obviously we want balanced, but games that have opportunities for what feels like almost like game-breaking moves or something that's like, oh my gosh, that was sweet. You know?
It's like, given the things I have, given the unique situation I've put myself in the game with what I have, like I can figure something out that really works well with what I have.
Yeah.
Where even though in this game, I like, over the game, you differentiate in things you're getting. You get these cool, like, I forget what they're called, like eclipse tiles that you put out that then like trigger in each eclipse phase. So you almost are kind of like customizing your scoring conditions. And so there's a lot of cool stuff there that you're kind of like differentiating. But then when you're actually going into the actions and stuff, it still kind of felt like that differentiation wasn't pushing me strongly in one direction or another as much as I maybe would have liked.
Yeah.
And I think it was hard because it already felt like the game was outstaying its welcome a little bit. I'm trying to remember if I want to say we had 3 players. It already felt like, okay, this is going a little longer than it feels like the game kind of earned. So then it's hard for that last stretch to feel like it even slowed down a little bit more as everybody, it's just hard to justify like these long turns that had almost no impact on the game, right? Because like the long turn wasn't to discover something that really impacted the winner. It was like, I got like almost the same outcome as if I hadn't thought through everything at all, right? Like if I'd just gone with my
put
gut.
all the effort in and then be like, oh, that wasn't rewarded.
So it was one I didn't see myself, like I said, it's in a very competitive category. So it was like, I mean, you have to, I don't know if I said, I rated this a 7.5. I probably forgot. Daniel will lament in editing when
I'm going to be raging in editing.
When he's like, Ryan, you didn't say your rating. Rated 7.5. And quite frankly, games in this demographic, like almost need to be like a 9 to stick around.
Yeah, that's significantly lower than the cutoff, it feels like.
So good game. I'd be happy to play it. It's just like, I'm always going to pick a number of other games over it.
Makes sense. Okay, Ryan. Over to me. I get my turn. My turn.
Yeah.
This is a game that we owned originally. Way back.
I had it originally. Yeah, I already called this like a decade ago. Dang, what's you from?
I got a cold again. Yeah, owned it way back, and then came out with a collector's edition, which Daniel's always enticed by a good collector's edition.
Yeah.
No, but honestly,
I'm much more enticed than I'm much less enticed than I used to be.
But actually, it was really great in terms of like, oh my gosh, like all of the, it's a game where having more content just sounded like it would be so great. This is going to go to Suburbia Collector's Edition, which I'm going to be giving an 8 out of 10. There is a lot I really like about this game. I mean, one, just like on the collector's edition, I think they did a really nice job from a presentation standpoint. I mean, the tiles just look beautiful. It's one of those games that as you're kind of building your city out in front of you, it just looks wonderful. But the mechanics of the game are super fun because it's a game where you're drafting these city tiles that you're kind of placing into your city, but all of your tiles kind of are interacting with one another. And one of the things I love about this game is that they interact with one another in ways that thematically kind of make sense, which is really cool. So like, there's a penalty if you put housing right next to like a huge
like industrial
landfill or something. You know what I mean? So like, I think the game does a really great job at thematic connection to where it's like, as you're building your city, you're not just doing things randomly to get points, but you're doing things to get points. And it also is like, oh yeah, like that kind of makes sense. Like why a city would be constructed that way. And I love the mechanics of this game. I mean, I think it's such an interesting tension in the game because you kind of have these two tracks. You've got your income, which is obviously critical because you need money to buy more tiles. But then you also have your reputation, which is what gives you more population. Population is essentially victory points. It's how you win the game. But as you go up on the population track, on the victory point track, you cross these lines that every time you cross them, you bump down on your income and reputation. And so the tension that causes is if you just go like hard reputation right away, your income's going to get decimated. Yeah. I actually think the last game I played of this, I went way too aggressive on reputation, and I was like in the negatives of income, like at the end of the game.
Way too many people. You didn't know how to manage this type of infrastructure.
I had no managing of them. But so like mechanically, I love Suburbia. I really do. And I thought the collector's edition was going to be like the definitive version of this. The reason it's leaving my collection, it's several things. I've talked about with like a key thing with a collector's edition is it can't feel like a burden, a bigger burden to pull the game out. I think Dungeon Fighter did a really good job of this. It doesn't feel like more of this like burden, like the setup is way longer. It's just you just have a bunch more like when things come out, you just have more things to pull
and you
from.
kind of pull out the trays and set them to the side. And you're pretty much ready to get the other content out.
Whereas in this game, you have tons of content, but you're not using all the content every game. And so you kind of have to decide, but then you also have to shuffle everything. And so you're like, okay, I want to maybe play with this one and this one. And so then you're shuffling all the things together, which that's like taking a good amount of time. And then after the game, you're having to sort everything. And like, it was one of those things that's like, oh man, all this content sounds great. Except now I just don't want to play the game because it significantly increased the barrier to getting into the table. And
sometimes that's like not even like a really conscious thing. It's not that you like really feel like you don't want to play it, but it's this subconscious thing that like you just don't end up pulling it off the shelf.
Yeah.
And it is one of those things like over time you like have a realization of like, we haven't played that, in so long. Like, oh, I think it partly is just because it is a little bit harder now than it used to be.
Yeah, it just really made bringing it out more difficult. So I think that was something that was kind of just made it not get to the table as much. I think the other thing I didn't love about this game was like in core Suburbia, the distribution of tiles is key. Like in terms of the ratio of, like if for example, there's like, you could play an airport and an airport scores more points based off the number of airports that other people have played.
Yeah.
So the problem I was facing is like, ideally, I would love a game where it's like you get a ton of content and you can just kind of shuffle it all together and take a random stack and play with that. Well, you can't do that in this game because if that random stack has one airport and you don't know, it's a horrible tile. Or you might have like 7 airports in the stack and it's an amazing tile. And so it's a game that so critically relies on a balanced distribution, and they tell you how to do that in the rule book. But again, that just goes back to the setup is really time consuming because you have to make sure you have if you want a balanced game, you got to make sure everything kind of and so it just became too much. And there was like part of me it's like, gosh, I wish I just had like the base game, even though it looked a lot worse, but yeah, and but even the base game, I mean, it was a game that I think was a little heavier than I wanted it to be because like playing this game, I mean, it's this isn't like a short game per se.
Yeah, it hits closer to maybe 90 minutes.
Like it's starting to bump kind of into that 90 minutes. If you're playing with 4 players, I mean, you might even be pushing close to that 2 hour. And like that again, like you're talking about with Endless Winter, I mean, you're starting to really hit competitive gaming territory there. So a game that like I love mechanically and I seriously, like if you ask me right now, like the game's already set up.
I'll set it up for you.
Maybe I just need to get like the digital version of it or something like that, because I do really enjoy everything about it. But man, it just was not getting to the table. So
I forget like when I got rid of it, like the main reasons, but I think it was one of those ones that just wasn't quite. It was like close to being a keeper.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, just there were other games in that I enjoyed more. But good game. It's a good one. Another good game, and one that's going to make me sound like an immediate hypocrite within this video.
I cannot believe you, Ryan.
Is The Crew, The Quest for Planet 9.
Oh my gosh.
You know that game that 3 entries ago I said is one that I could play at 50 sometimes?
You are unbelievable.
But before you're up in arms, this has a very specific reason that it's leaving the collection. I rate this an 8 out of 10. I think The Crew is a great game. So good that I am actually replacing it with a different edition of The Crew, which is The Crew Mission Deep Sea. And really the big thing here, I actually have still not played Mission Deep Sea. It is a game that I don't often have the group that's the right group for this.
Hey, I'm going to be out there in a few weeks.
But yeah, and as you discovered, our mother apparently likes this game. So
she does. Yeah.
Maybe I just need to just drive over to her house at The Crew and show up at the door and like, please play this.
There you go.
But yeah, the Mission Deep Sea, so The Crew is a cooperative trick-taking game. That was really the big innovation, was making a trick-taking game fully cooperative with very limited communication. The Crew the original edition, had all these missions that did different twists, and it was very fun to like go to the next mission and like what's the different restraint or goals that we need to do in this one. What Mission Deep Sea does is it adds more of a mission generation system into it, of like there's a deck of goals that are very different things, and it still has like missions that have you assemble it, but they're much more variable. Like the missions are going to be more different every time, and it kind of opens the door to kind of doing more just like one-off games and still have it be like variable and not just like picking a certain one.
Right.
And so that really, really appealed to me. That's definitely something that I felt would make it easier to get this game to the table after I just said that I haven't been able to get it to the table, but I do think in the long run it's going to make it easier to get to the table.
As long as it hypothetically is easier.
That's all that matters. We're all dealing in. We don't actually play these games. It's all just
I haven't
theory.
played a board game in years.
Yeah. But yeah, it just was pretty clear that it was the one I was going to want in my collection, and I couldn't really justify having both, especially with how infrequently I play them. So ended up getting rid of The Crew. Had a very good time with it, and I'm looking forward to playing the new edition more. Yeah,
that one's interesting. I definitely have my eye on it as well. Honestly, so right now, because I have The Crew, The Quest for Planet 9, and right now it's kind of become the me, my wife, and our mom, whenever she comes out and visit, it's like our little game that we
Did you guys play it again because she was just out there recently?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so for now, I'm like, let's just keep playing this. We're having a fun time. We got the same group.
Well, and that's actually a good point, because with the original Crew, I think I had 3 different groups that had I had made progress with campaigns in, and I think all 3 of them had a member move out of state. So
because of that, Ryan.
You are one of them.
Maybe that's the common denominator. They hated the game.
Man, me playing The Crew with people is getting them to leave. But obviously that was a big reason why The Crew wasn't getting played, because you felt more with that edition of the game that I really do want to get the same group together. So that is something I'm hoping with Mission Deep Sea, is I can feel a little bit more able to hey, we might not be committing to a campaign together here, but let's play a few hands, and mix it up. So I'll have to report back later if that serves that purpose the way I hope it does.
There you go. Okay, Ryan.
Okay.
This is where Daniel just laments. This is a game that is a great game. It's a big game. You still own it, and
I mean, I think I got it in my top 10 games of all time.
Yeah,
so.
and it was pretty high in my rankings. But there are reasons that it's left. It grieves my heart to say that A Feast for Odin has left the collection. Ryan, I think, is a little disappointed in me, to be honest. I sense some shame.
Nah, it's a bummer. I mean, I think we would both say that it was a little bit of a surprise that your wife over time didn't enjoy this one as much as we thought she might.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give us an 8.5 out of 10. This is a fantastic game. It's gosh, I mean, talk about a game where there's just lots of huge worker placement. It's just such an interesting game in terms of the kind of having your personal board, and you're doing this like little Tetris type thing of, and that's also controlling your income and your surround. I mean, there's just a lot of things, honestly, in A Feast for Odin that feel very different maybe than what a normal, just traditional, worker placement game is. You talk about with like Endless Winter maybe feeling very standard. I would say that whole just manipulating your personal board, that's a very unique and exhilarating thing in A Feast for Odin. And so yeah, it's a great game. I think here are the things that it came down to. Like you mentioned, my wife didn't love it as much as I was originally
Which, for
hoping.
the record, she loves heavy, tight work. I mean, like Agricola, for example.
Agricola is her favorite game.
And she also loves tight, like polyomino, puzzly games, or tends to enjoy those types of games.
But I
which
think,
is part of why this felt like it would be a home run.
I thought it would. Honestly, and thinking about kind of her reflections, and I share a little bit of this. The game is not tight in terms it's a very sandbox feel, and I've realized with my wife she doesn't like that because it kind of sometimes leaves you in this place of like, well, I could do a bunch of different things, and who knows what the best thing to do is, and I'm not going to get blocked regardless, or and I would agree. I don't like that feeling when I go into a game of like, oh, well, what am I going to try this game? And I do feel that a little bit at the Feast for Odin of like, okay, well, there's like 100 actions. Is
this going to be my whaling game?
I want to go whaling this time? Do I want to, and so they have cards in the game. I really don't love the cards. They just feel very kind of more of a like, oh, I can kind of do this to get this little thing, versus I think if the cards were more substantial and maybe could help drive a direction for where to go on the board, maybe that would help a little bit. Or maybe there's, and I'm trying to even remember if there was anything like this in the expansion, but like something at this, a unique setup at the start that would... They
added a little bit. You now get your starting card, and you also get the like hut or whatever.
Yeah, and
but it's not like a huge direction defining thing.
Because I think for both of us, like what we would love is something where it's like I'm starting like this, or I even think about like Terraforming Mars, like the prelude stuff, and it's like, okay, of all the options, this is the route I'm going because I've kind of been given this. And so I think it just was a little too sandboxy. It's a beast. I mean, this is I would say even a notch. I don't know, like maybe it's not actually, but in my mind, it feels like it's even just a notch heavier than like your Agricola Terraforming Mars. Like it's just like to get this to the table.
Complexity.
Yeah, this is a hard one to teach. It's long, and so you just add some of those things where it's like, man, I personally really love this game. I think part of it also is like, you still own it, and so it's like, okay, well, maybe there's a world where I can, if I do want to play it again,
keep telling
play
yourself
with you.
That we know how hard it is to.
It's true. Yeah, I'm never playing this game again. Yeah. So a great game, but just again, it's in that spot with length, complexity, heaviness, where like there can't be much wrong with it.
Yeah.
They're like the line of like, and you add just like, okay, my wife doesn't love it. It's a little too sandboxy. The cards aren't quite, and like amidst
Which, let's be
amazing other
honest,
stuff. So
the fact that your wife doesn't love it is, I feel like, one of the biggest things, because that would be your most likely scenario to play it.
She was who I played it with. Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you turned it and like said, what if your wife had loved it? Or even just like liked it, like it would 100%.
I'll keep any board game that she loves. I don't care if I hate it. Like,
yeah. So it's interesting because everything you said, I like 100% agree with.
Wow.
I don't love the sandboxiness.
Feast for Odin coming on Ryan's.
I wish there was more upfront, that you got more variable setup that felt like it was driving you more. I wish the cards felt kind of more impactful. I don't love what they did in the expansion. The expansion's amazing.
Yeah.
But they did a thing with the cards to try to mitigate bad card draws.
Oh, I don't like
where
that
now you
either.
can discard for points. And it's like, okay, that made it more fair, but it's also incentivizing doing the less fun thing, which is not playing the cards.
I know.
Like, I want to play these abilities and feel like it's part of my strategy. I think when I play Feast for Odin, I kind of choose to lean into the direction of my initial like cards, even if it's not because like, oh, this is like really telling me that this is going to be the most effective, and more of like, this is a suggestion of how I should maybe go in this sandboxy game. For me, it's one of these games that, despite some of those kind of red flags that tend to be red flags in games for me, when I play Feast for Odin, it's just so dang fun. Like the other stuff around it and my experience playing it, like, elevates above.
Yeah.
And there are going to be some things that are going to keep it from being in the top tier for me. But I mean, it's been in my top 10 games kind of despite those things. And it does feel very unique, like you said. And so that's kept it around for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not in the same situation of you. This would be one of the last games my wife would want to play. My wife leans a lot lighter with the types of games she enjoys. So, you know, I'm usually looking to my more strategic groups that like these types of games anyway. And I have some friends that do like it quite a bit. Yeah. But yeah, it is a sad day to see it leaving your collection.
Honestly, like, it's also one that I just think I maybe even just needed to play a lot more, because I even think about just like strategy wise, I just didn't even feel like I was at the point where like I most effectively knew how to use like the islands, and so they were still at the place where they kind of just felt like this extra thing. I was like, I think I should be kind of using those, but I don't know. When do I go get them?
Well, there's definitely the feeling a little bit like people who, you know, play Feast for Odin all the time, they like know the islands and they're like, oh, like I'm going to be going after this one.
Yeah.
I'm like over there, I look at a couple of them and it's like, yeah, this one looks like I'll be able to scale my come. I don't even really want to think about what all the other islands are. Like, I don't want to like crunch whether all of these would. So yeah, like, of games in my top 10, Feast for Odin might be the one that I can like critique the most. Like, I have the most things that I actually don't like about it, but it just like speaks to how much the things I do like are just so fun in the game. Yeah.
I mean, that if a game is fun enough, you know, can ignore those
Speaking
things.
of fun games.
Speaking of fun games, this game is a fantastic game. It is one of my favorite games of all time. And there's a very specific reason.
And you need to you're trying to practice a little more self-control, so you're like, needs to leave the collection so that you don't neglect your family and other such things.
That's right. No, there's a very specific reason this game is leaving my collection, and that is because there is a new edition coming hopefully soon. We'll see.
Daniel's betting on this new edition. Let me tell you,
I'm putting all my eggs in one basket on this one. This goes to Nemesis. So I give Nemesis a 9.5 out of 10. Nemesis is one of my favorite games of all time. And I think about the first time I played Nemesis, and I was just absolutely blown away by the thematic feeling that it gave me during the game. It really was unlike more of a thematic feeling than I think I've really had in another board game, in the sense of you are, you know, on this like, you know, ship or whatever, and you feel like the terror of there's aliens in here. And the aliens are terrifying. And I gotta try to sneak around. And the terror of like, I can't fully trust. Can I trust you? Can I not? Like, this game, I think going back, we enjoyed like Battlestar Galactica. We've enjoyed Dead of Winter. So we've enjoyed some of the kind of games that have, so this kind of betrayer element. I think in those games, I never felt, there were a couple things. I never felt this deep thematic, like deeply drawn into it. Like Dead of Winter, you maybe even more so in Battlestar Galactica, you maybe did feel that. But in Dead of Winter, I don't know, you kind of just felt like...
We don't know the Battlestar Galactica IP.
Yeah,
so
true.
We're going completely blind into this from a thematic perspective.
But I don't know, man, just Nemesis, it's like... you're sharing this experience with the group of oh my goodness, this is just absolutely terrifying. But then I find the game it delivers a lot of incredible moments. The way just things work between the tension of the different objectives. You have two objectives and you got to commit to one, and so you're all trying to kind of like who's doing what, are you good, are you bad, and you usually kind of go off in pairs and whatnot. The whole like noise thing, is really interesting. I love thematic games, and this one I think is probably my favorite of thematic games, and so that's why it's jumped all the way to the top for me. I am so excited for Nemesis Retaliation. Normally, I would say it is a horrible idea to sell one of your favorite games before a new edition comes out, and I might still think that afterwards. We'll see. But the changes, just to me, like it was one of those things where it's like, it felt like there's no way I'm not gonna like this more. They add a variable map that is so great on multiple levels. One, I think it's going to create an even more thematic experience of you don't know this place that you're walking into, and you're discovering it as you go. That's incredible from a variability perspective of playing game to game. That's incredible because the original game, the rooms were variable, but you kind of knew, you always knew the head of the ship was here, the back here, and all of that. So there was a lot of consistency.
It feels like the modular map is going to amp up just the kind of different stories that can get told. There's just more room in the system for different things to happen.
And then I think just on top of that, there's now variability with the aliens. Part of that was I backed a little bit, where now I'm not even sure what I backed at this point. Isn't this the great thing? You back it so far
Which
back.
There may have even been variability with the aliens in the previous edition for people that actually got a bunch of Kickstarter stuff.
The stretch stuff. But I think there was just a lot injected into the variability of it. I know they made a change to the objectives where, in the original game, you would, as soon as the first alien came out, you have to choose, which sometimes that would happen in very quickly. And you're like, well, I have no information that helps me decide. And that wasn't a great feeling. Whereas now you can basically choose to keep both objectives for as long as you want, but there's kind of a negative, there's
an incentive to commit
earlier, which I think is really cool. That's a fun kind of tension that it creates. So a lot of things that I just look at and I'm like, man, I think this is going to be the one. I think this is going to deliver, take everything I loved about Nemesis and make it even better, which is saying a lot given that it already was one of my favorite games. So you also have this one on
I do have this one on the way. I really enjoyed I've only played Nemesis once, enjoyed my play of it.
Yeah.
Felt like that game system could have a nice place in my collection of big thematic game that gives kind of that semi-co-op feel.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see because like I haven't played as many times as you, so I haven't as formed as complete of an opinion on it. But I agree with what you're saying that like the new edition feels to me like the one that's going to be best for me.
And this, I've a little bit struggled with semi-cooperative games. Like my big complaint with like Dead of Winter was it felt the game was already really hard. Like if it was just a cooperative game, it was hard. But it felt like, well, if we have a someone who's a betrayer, zombie or whatever, we're just hosed. Like it's
and it also what you didn't know if you did or not. Which I actually found that I liked it better in Battlestar because Battlestar Galactica, you always know that there's going to be these Cylons by the end of the game, and so you always know you're going to get kind of this dramatic arc of the game ending in like a team versus team.
And the game's balanced around that reality that there's going to be 2 and 3 good, 2 bad. Whereas Dead of Winter, you didn't know. Sometimes everyone's good. Sometimes someone's totally. And the problem is, how do you make a game that is balanced for both?
Yeah, they
scenarios?
definitely leaned into randomness more. I mean, that Dead of Winter even has the die that like there's one side that just like I can't remember. It's been a long time, but it's like a really bad result with the zombies. Which there's somebody who said, I mean, we're fans of games where that randomness can make very memorable moments. But it was one that just like never quite worked as well or as was fun as the idea of it was.
I agree. Yeah. So I'm excited. I hope it gets delivered soon. I think it's supposed to, but
I mean, I think it was originally like April 2025. So,
was it? Oh my gosh.
I think so, yeah.
Oh jeez. What am I?
So I think the reprints of the first 2
that's so sad.
are delivering soon. Yeah, Daniel's been reading all the emails, getting all excited. Ooh, it's coming.
It's coming.
No, not your version.
Okay, fine.
But yes, hopefully we can report back in hopefully less than a year. You never know with these Kickstarters. But hopefully we can chat a little bit in the future about our thoughts on Nemesis Retaliation.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you felt like we were a little too positive about all of these games, these were a lot of really good games. We've got a whole playlist of games that we have gotten rid of, and some of them are quite more negative than this one. So you can click there if you want to check that out. We've got another video here as well, and we'll see you in the next one.